Microsoft co-founder and philanthropist Bill Gates is the pioneering tech titan who helped lead the computer revolution and plans to donate the majority of his multi-billion-dollar fortune to global causes. Now he's sharing his journey and how it began in his new memoir, Source Code. Please welcome, for the very first time on The View, Bill Gates. So, first of all, welcome to The View.
Wow. Yeah.
But secondly, it's kind of great to have you at such an important time for the country, because it seems like today's tech billionaires are shifting rightward and seem to have more power than even the VP, whose name I can't remember.
Well, there's no club of these people. We're, kind of individual, and I'm very focused on global health, and hope the transition to this administration doesn't interrupt some incredible work that's been going on.
Well, they had some VIP seating at the inauguration, and we did notice you weren't there. What do you make of that visual?
They clearly wanted to fund the inauguration. They wanted it to be a great inauguration, just for the good of the country, no doubt.
I feel we're calling you Bill, Mr. Gates. Shortly before President Trump took office, you had a 3-hour dinner with him, and that's more FaceTime than, as you say, you had with Joe Biden during his presidency. And by your account, you say that you were impressed with him. What are you able to share about issues you discussed? And since he's only been in office 2 weeks, but do you feel like what you discussed aligned with what you're seeing so far?
Well, my two priorities in talking to President Trump were the global health issues, particularly HIV and polio. The voters have a lot to be proud of. We've saved tens of millions of lives. The number of children who die at the turn of the century is over 10 million a year, now down below 5 million. And things like HIV medicines, malaria bed nets are responsible for that, and vaccines. So I was encouraging him to drive more innovation in those spaces. We're still missing some vaccines, and I felt we had a very good conversation.
Okay. Well, and you, Mr. Gates, you also called Elon Musk's political influence abroad, quote, insane, along with another word we can't repeat here. But what's your take on his political access and influence here in America right now?
Well, Elon, his private sector work, has been very innovative, really fantastic. A lot of private sector people, when they get into government, they don't take the time necessarily to see what the good work is or why it's structured the way it is. So I'm a little worried, particularly with this USAID stuff. My foundation partners with USAID on nutrition and getting vaccines out. And, there's incredible people. They're not actually worms that work there. So, hopefully we'll get some of that work back in shape. In fact, if we don't, you could have literally millions of deaths. So, with aid, people think, wow, how much do we give to these countries? As you said, it's less than 1%. People think it's 5%, and it should be 2%, but it's actually under 1%.
Wow, and still saving lives. Well, your Gates Foundation is the biggest funder of vaccines in the world. I think a lot of people don't recognize that. And it was key to developing the COVID vaccine. That has made you, unfortunately, a target of all kinds of baseless conspiracies, including from RFK Jr., who apparently does have a worm in his brain. And he now claims he is not anti-vax. Do you believe him?
Well, we'll do our best to work with him. Under his management is going to be the FDA, which is a fantastic regulator, passing judgment on a lot of the new innovations we're funding. NIH does fantastic research.
Yeah.
And so those have been partners of our foundation, and I hope the great scientists there get the support they deserve.
And just to follow up, before COVID, you say you spent the most sleepless nights worrying about pandemics. After COVID, has that changed? And if it has, what keeps you up now? Because we all need to know.
Yeah, the pandemic, sadly, was fairly predictable, and it won't be the last pandemic. The next one could be far more severe. I mean, this one, it killed millions. It was awful. We got the vaccine. Actually, President Trump's leadership was a factor in getting that out quickly. And so when I spoke to him, I said, okay, here's some other medical innovations, including a thing called an HIV cure that could be accelerated. So, we should be more prepared, both for a pandemic. I'd say that's still number one. You can worry about nuclear war. You can worry about AI.
This
There's
sounds like fun.
plenty to worry about. But
do you
overall,
sleep
I'm
at
an
all?
optimist.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's up to the government to think ahead on behalf of the citizens.
Yes.
So, pandemic, there's a lot that we should be doing that hopefully we'll get our act together before the next one comes. Overall, the innovation in health, both in the developing countries, the rich world, I love being part of that.
I was reading, though, that you said the next pandemic you are predicting within maybe 25 years. Is that
Certainly
accurate?
we'll have one
not before.
in the next 25 years. There's even some pathogens out there that we're watching over right now. So maybe 10% chance in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about AI, which you mentioned. Last week, Silicon Valley and stocks were rocked by news that China's AI model may outperform ours at a fraction of the cost and quicker to develop it. You've been in the book, you're very optimistic about AI. Are you still optimistic, and is the U.S. falling behind China in the AI race?
Well, the U.S. has done amazing work. Both people born here and people who've come here mean that we have more AI companies than even China has. But we should never underestimate great innovation in China. In many of the areas of science or getting product costs down, they do great work. They're 20% of the world's population. So the fact that this turn of the crank, they got ahead, that's not totally surprising. The U.S. companies will, including OpenAI, will catch up and move ahead. The pace of advance is pretty fantastic. And in many ways, that's going to help us in education and health delivery. A lot of good things that can come out of this that aren't zero sum, that, having all countries have access, including poor countries, I think is very exciting.
I have to ask you this because of my obsession with social media and where it's going. We noticed you haven't tweeted in a while, but this past weekend you joined TikTok, Bill Gates. Why did you join the platform? Where do you come down on the impact of social media more broadly, especially with Meta banning fact-checking?
Do you do dance numbers on TikTok? Or?
Whatever it takes to sell books. I'm available.